I was 20 feet away when it started. My post was the south pillar of the Hearthmore Memorial Arch, and Voss had the north. That is how we stood every midnight rotation in the autumn quarter, 2 men on the harbor gate, the black water behind us, the cobblestones running down to the wharf. The garrison had posted a ceremonial guard at the arch for 63 years without interruption. Most nights, the only sounds were the tide and the distant creak of moored vessels riding their moorings. That night was different. I heard him before I saw him. A heavy, unsteady tread on the cobbles, the particular rhythm of a man who has been drinking since well before dark and has not yet decided what to do with the rage building inside him. He came up from the direction of the Anchor and Keel, which was the last tavern before the waterfront district gave way to the garrison boundary. He was broad, somewhere in his 40s, wearing a canvas work jacket with a collar turned up against the November cold. He was not lost. He was not looking for the nearest street or asking for directions. He knew exactly where he was walking, and he had chosen this destination with the specific deliberateness of a man who believes he has a point to make. He stopped in front of Voss. Aldrich Voss was 26 years old, 2 years into his posting at Hearthmore. He stood 5 feet 11 in his boots, and in the full dress of the garrison guard, the dark green ceremonial tunic, the polished brass buttons, the tall bearskin, the white gloves, the rifle held at the carry, he looked like something carved from the same stone as the arch behind him. His eyes were forward. His chin was level. He had not moved in 47 minutes. The drunk looked him up and down, then he said something. I could not hear every word across the distance, but I caught the shape of it, low, contemptuous, the kind of thing a man says when he wants a reaction and has decided he is owed one. Voss did not move. That was the first provocation. And in the stillness that followed, you could hear the harbor clearly, the water against the pilings, the distant bell of a moored vessel shifting on its chain. The drunk stepped closer. He leaned into the space that no member of the public was supposed to enter, the 18-inch margin that every guard post in the garrison maintained, and he said it louder this time. I could hear it clearly now. He was telling Voss to look at him, telling him that standing there in a costume did not make him a soldier. Telling him that he had served, which may or may not have been true, and that a man who actually served did not stand around in a hat playing dress-up for tourists who could not tell the difference anyway. Voss did not blink. He did not shift his weight or adjust his grip on the rifle. The drunk waited. When nothing came, his expression changed from contempt to something darker. He took one more step forward, closing the last of the distance, and he spat, not at the ground near the boots, at the boots themselves. A deliberate, direct act. The saliva caught the lamplight as it landed on the left toe cap. Still, Voss did not move, not by a fraction. I want to be precise about what that requires. I have stood that post. I know what it takes to absorb that moment, to hold the jaw, hold the eyes, hold the hand still on the rifle, and to keep every ounce of it behind the face. It is not passivity. It is a decision made and remade every second that the discipline of the post is worth more than the release of answering. I watched Voss make that decision with the spit still wet on his boot, and he held. The drunk read the stillness as permission. He reached for the rifle. It was not a tentative gesture. He did not brush the barrel or put a hand on the stock by accident. He grabbed for it, 2 hands going for the wood and metal just below the muzzle, the full intention of a man who has decided that he can take something that does not belong to him, because the man holding it has not stopped him yet. What happened in the next 4 seconds is something I have replayed many times. I have described it to the regimental sergeant major, to the garrison duty officer, and to the 2 harbor constables who wrote the report. Every time I tell them the same thing. It was the most controlled thing I have ever seen a man do under provocation. Voss did not swing the rifle. He did not shout. He did not step back. He pivoted on his left heel, used the drunk's own forward momentum against him with one short, sharp motion that brought the man's grip off the barrel and twisted the arm up and behind him in a single fluid movement. And then Voss stepped through, walked the drunk 1 step forward and put him against the arch stone. It took less time than I have taken to describe it. The drunk hit the stone with enough force to make clear that the conversation was over, but no more than that. Then Voss stepped back to his position, brought the rifle back to the carry, and stood his post again. The drunk slid down 2 inches against the stone, caught himself, and stood there breathing hard. He turned around slowly. There was a stunned look on his face, not pain, not injury, just the particular look of a man whose certainty has been removed from him and replaced with something cold and clarifying. I had already called it in. The garrison communications post was staffed overnight, and the harbor constabulary ran a joint patrol with us on the midnight rotation. My transmission was 12 words: assault on post North Pillar, Harthmore Arch, request constabulary response. I sent it the moment the drunk's hands went for the rifle, before the disarm was even complete, before the arch stone had taken the man's weight. By the time Voss had resumed his position and dressed back to his mark, the response was already on its way up the harbor road. The drunk stood in front of the arch and tried one more time. He straightened himself up, adjusted his collar, and said, loudly enough for the waterfront to hear, that this was not finished and that he would be coming back. His voice was still thick, still ragged, but he was trying to put the arrogance back on over the shock. It did not fit anymore. He sounded like a man playing the role of someone who had not just been folded against a stone wall by a guardsman who never once raised his voice. Voss looked at a fixed point 12 degrees above the drunk's left shoulder. He did not respond. He did not need to. The harbor constabulary arrived in 2 minutes and 40 seconds. 2 officers, unhurried, moving at that particular pace that communicates competence without urgency. They had covered this waterfront for years, and they knew exactly what a constabulary response to a garrison post meant. They came around the corner and took in the scene, the drunk still on the cobblestones in front of the arch, Voss at the carry, me at my post on the south pillar, and neither of them looked surprised. One of them addressed the drunk by his first name. Apparently, they knew him well enough that no introduction was required on either side. The arrest was a quiet thing. One officer produced a set of cuffs and the other gave the brief, professional language of the charge: assault on a posted ceremonial guard, resisting disorderly conduct in a garrison boundary. The drunk started to object. The officer said 2 more words and the drunk went quiet, put his hands back, and accepted the restraint. The whole process took less than 4 minutes. They walked him off toward the constabulary station at the bottom of the harbor road, and his footsteps faded under the sound of the tide coming in. Voss never looked at them. He did not track them down the road or watch the drunk go. He was already somewhere else behind the eyes, back to the fixed point and the discipline of the post, as though the entire matter had been handed off to the appropriate authority and was no longer his concern. I watched him for the rest of the rotation. 94 more minutes at the north pillar, the same stillness he had carried for the 4 hours before. His left boot still had the spit on it. Nobody came out to clean it during the rotation, and he would not have broken post to attend to it himself, and he stood there, eyes forward, rifle at the carry, as though the entire incident were a weather event that had arrived and passed without requiring his opinion. The lamp above the arch cast its usual shadow across the stone. The water moved in the harbor. A gust came off the bay sometime around 2 in the morning, and the lamp swayed briefly, and the shadows shifted across the face of the arch, and Voss did not move. An hour before the relief came, a fishing vessel put out through the gate channel, and its running lights traced a slow arc across the black surface of the bay and disappeared. I have been asked since that night whether Voss said anything during the debrief, whether he expressed any anger, any relief, any opinion at all about what had happened at the arch. He said 4 words. The garrison duty officer asked him formally and for the record to describe the nature of the threat to the posted arm, and Voss said, "I addressed the threat." That was the entirety of his account. The duty officer wrote it down, nodded once, and signed off the report. There was nothing more that needed saying. The regimental record noted, in the standard post-incident format, that Guardsman First Class Aldrich Voss had neutralized an attempted seizure of a posted arm using proportionate controlled force, maintained the integrity of his post throughout the incident, and resumed the rotation without relief. It noted the response time of the harbor constabulary. It noted that no injury was sustained by any party, that the garrison boundary had not been breached, and that the ceremonial post had not been vacated at any point during or after the incident. What the regimental record does not note, because regimental records are not written to capture these things, is what it looked like from 20 feet away on the south pillar. The spit on the boot, the 2 hands going for the rifle, and then 4 seconds of the most precise, deliberate, disciplined response I have ever watched a man deliver under the kind of provocation designed specifically to make him lose it. The drunk had come to the arch that night expecting to find a statue, something decorative and unresponsive, something that would absorb whatever he chose to give it without ever pushing back. He found Aldrich Voss instead. And the harbor learned something that the garrison has known for 63 years. The man at the arch is not there to be tested. He is there because he has already passed every test worth passing. He is there because the institution behind him decided, long before that drunk walked out of the anchor and keel looking for something to break, that this post would be held by the best it had. The arch stands, the guard stands, and whatever comes up from the waterfront in the dark hours, whatever rage or arrogance or drunken certainty decides to make its point at the north pillar, it is going to find the same thing every single time. A man who does not move, does not speak, does not break, until the moment it is time to do something about it.